I think you've all taken a seat. If anybody is back there and I can't see you, like this guy over here that I totally can't see, take a seat. Anyway, I'm Elise Adler, and I'm the director of events here for Parnassus Books, and it is absolutely my pleasure to say welcome and to say thank you for coming this evening, for Andrew, and also for supporting Parnassus Books, because shopping local and supporting your local bookstores and supporting independence of all kinds in your community is really important. And when you buy books from us, then you enable us to have these incredible experiences for you. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I do want you to know that it's appreciated, and I want to say a very heartfelt thank you. So, and then I take my phone with me because I'm terrible about turning it off, so I'm reminding myself and I'm reminding you, because phone solos are just really not the thing for author events. So if you guys want to silence your phones, that would be great. And I am absolutely thrilled. Andrew McFadyen-Ketchum, who is a native, thank you. If I say it again, I want a big round of applause. Andrew McFadyen-Ketchum. Happens to be a native Nashvilleian and is proud of it. So I love it when I actually meet people from here. He is an author and an editor and a ghostwriter. He's the author of 3 poetry collections. This is so beautiful. I don't know if you've read it, but I have. I'll tell you, it is the most beautiful thing. Fight or Flight, Visiting Hours, and Ghost Gear. Also, wait, there's more. Assistant director of the Outside Fork Writers Sanctuary, founder and editor of poemoftheweek.com, the Floodgate Poetry Series, and Apocalypse Now, Poems and Prose from the End of Days, and acquisitions editor for Upper Booth Books. So, without further ado, help me welcome Andrew. One more thing. Those books are signed that you have, but there will be a signing line at the end of the evening, so he'll personalize them for you. And Ben will probably get rid of the chairs, right? Stop chair. Okay, great. They're good.
Dan, they're already putting you to work again, bud. You know what's really funny about that bio is it doesn't even mention my whole other career that I'm not going to talk about at all. But one thing I've been looking forward to with this reading is the faces that I would see and the interesting intersections that are happening. So I have 4 or 5 communities that I'm deeply embedded in. Some of you don't even know the others exist. It's really kind of cool. So if you look around and you're like, I don't know who that is, feel free to go up to them and say, so how do you know Andy/Andrew? And that'll say a lot right there. Or Drew, if you call me, if somebody says, how do you know Drew? That's like a really specific group. And after this, we're gonna walk over, like, just through the parking lot to the Green Hills Grill and take over the bar and spend a little time there. So we have opportunities to hang out after this. Thank you so much for coming. We have, hey Maria, look, where she made the cupcakes? Cupcakes!
Hello, John. How you doing?
Writing on them. You gotta check them
Good
out.
to see you.
Never seen anything like it.
Dump ass.
I didn't realize what they were doing so good. What was I doing there? Oh yes. So thank you for coming. So every author's, well, most writers, their greatest nightmare is having a book release event and no one being there. So that nightmare has not come to pass today. So thank you for being here to support me and putting out this book. And then thank you to Parnassus. Let's give them a big round of applause, please. They swooped in and saved the day. I don't know how many years ago it was now, when Nashville legitimately did not have a single bookstore that sold new books. Y'all may not know that, but that actually was a thing. And I think that we've crawled out of that pit, but it's still not great. And they're here doing that good work, and author events are really important. I released my first book, Ghost Gear, 9 years ago here, and then was gonna have my second book release here, but this thing you might have heard of, it's called COVID happened, and we were actually one of the first events to cancel. I was just like, no, let's not do this. we'll do it later. So here we are, gathered at long last to do this. So, in my life, threes are really important. The number 3, I tend to, hey there, Judy, how's it going? Welcome. I'm glad to see you. I was noting you weren't here. I have, so for this to be my 3rd book, that's meaningful. Now, if I write another one, I'm gonna have to write 6, because that's, oh Lord. I have 3 children, some of whom you're hearing back there. And I've been married, I've gotten married 3 times. Once to my first wife, and then twice in the same day to Karen. Which this book is, in many ways, about that entire experience. So, I was married for 10 years, and back a little while ago. And was very dedicated to my marriage, and it just did not work out, and I came out of it without children, and that was the real tragedy, I guess. Now, this book is going to show you how it was not a tragedy. It actually turned out to be the best thing possible for me to be free to go out into the world and find my family and heal in the process. So that's what this book's essentially about. That's the title, Fight or Flight. So, 3s. Every book I've published, all 3 of them, has how many sections? 3. Yeah. I really tried to break out of that. I couldn't do it. It's really odd. So I'm going to read 3 poems from each section. That means I'm going to read 9 poems, and if you know my poetry from before, you're going, oh my God, we're going to be here all night. But guess what I did in this book? I wrote short poems, okay? So it's okay. It's going to work out. Okay, this is from the first section. This is kind of fun. Like, I have to tell myself where the poems are. That's the thing that's neat about a new book. You don't know where the poems are. You have to go find them. Other books, you know where they are. Okay, this is the first section. This is called Forgiveness, and I'm going to start us off with 8.9 acres. The moment the papers are finally signed, he drives straight to Judy's 8.9 acres with a 12-person Walmart tent and nowhere else to go. She helps him find some level ground beneath the black walnut. Together they follow the diagrams to raise the tent's walls. They pay out 50 feet of orange electrical cord from her bedroom window so he can brew coffee in the morning, have a little light at night. After an early supper of homegrown veggie stew, they walk the property, feed the chickens, pick hornworms on all 4s from the tomato plants, and place them gingerly at the bases of sweet gums or in the tall wild grasses populated by bees. She loans him her dog's double mattress, wet with flea spray, and a high-powered flashlight to ward off foxes and owls that stalked the chicken coop each night, then offers a gun as a joke. For protection, she says. This is Trump country, you know. Man says, thank you, but I'm good, and enters the tent that first night. Wrapped in his mother's quilt on the mattress on the gray tarp floor, he listens to the pang of tree frogs and locusts, the barking of dogs chained to stumps, the slow descent into the evening and sleep. Next morning, with the rising of first light and the songs of the birds scientists theorize as code for, I survived the dark, I survived the dark. Did you survive the dark? It takes the man a moment to piece together where he is. Judy's property in Illinois, the tent, the woman he married 10 years ago, never to roll over again onto her side and gaze into his eyes. The gun that could be waiting for him beneath his pillow. He does as the therapists instruct. He names the cardinals, the wrens, the crows and goldfinches by the calls they make. He counts the leaping spiders scaling the thin walls of his new home, composes a list of all he is grateful for. Stars, strong coffee, dear friends. He looks for shapes in his breath climbing the air above him, and and finds, as always, the children of his dreams, the 2 little boys, the 1 little girl, dancing in the kitchen, swimming in the ocean, crying in his arms with first heartbreak. And he asks himself, why, oh why, did you not say yes to the gun? So, I've never competed with children while reading a poem. I've also never read a poem in which the children the poem is about are competing with me for space in the Bible. Very on brand. So, what I did was I went and I lived in a tent for 2 years. This is actually true. It was absolutely incredible. And I do miss waking up to birds like that. It was something else. Now I wake up to, Mommy! Why am I waking up? Okay. This is on the first anniversary of divorce. He wakes before light from difficult dreams. He rises from bed and thus from sleep. He drives to the Casey's for weak coffee and cigarettes, then on to the lake on the map to catch the cardinal's sun. There, the last of the fog is running off. A reed stretches so far from the bank it nearly touches its reflection's face. The heady scent of lilac enters and exits him. His heart opens and closes again and again. Why must I wake? He asks his face on the water. Why must I dream? He asks the face of his father. He'd woken before light, after all, from his dreams. He'd risen from bed and thus from sleep. He'd driven to the Casey's for weak coffee and cigarettes, then on to the lake on the map to catch the cardinal's song. There, he'd watched the last of the fogs burning off. A reed had stretched so far from the bank it nearly touched its reflection's face. The heady scent of lilac had entered and exited him. His heart had opened and closed again and again. Why must I wake? He'd asked his face on the water. Why must I dream? He'd asked the face of his father. He woke, didn't he, before light, from a dream? He rose from bed, did he not, and thus from sleep? He drove to the Casey's for weak coffee and cigarettes, then on to the lake on the map to catch the cardinal's song. There, the last of the fog was gone. A reed stretched so far from the bank, it nearly touched its fate. The heady scent of lilac became him. His heart beat again and again and again. Why must I wake? He asked his face on the water. Why must I dream? He asked the face of his father. This will be the last poem of the first section. A trio of crows. A trio of crows followed him all that afternoon through the canyon lands of Utah's fiery furnace, a place people go to get lost because they believe they will be found. From the salt white peaks of the hoodoos, the crows trumpeted and cawed and hawked. Backlit by the sun, the crows sputtered and cawed. Wings closed or splayed before the gray day moon, they hoped the man knew he'd either drop food or become food. Yet still, he felt protected, companioned, watched over somehow, no matter the way. Is this all I desire? He wondered as he squeezed through a slot in stone. Anyone, anything, no matter to watch over me, no matter their will, their intent or skill. Is that all I need? He asked the crow's shadows, the high cleft faces, the sun going down as he pondered, turning back, any manner of flight, no matter how wrecked or wrapped its wings. Give me a round of applause for this section. You guys are actually doing it right. What usually happens, what didn't happen here, which is a bad sign, but what usually happens is you read a poem and everybody starts clapping, and then you read the next one, they clap, and it's like, you have to stop and be like, you don't have to clap every single time. Like, it's awkward. It didn't happen here. You guys are doing a great job. But I'll demand each section at the very least. Okay, so I'm going to go with a little bit of a longer one. The lines are fairly short, so it's not like super long, but I kind of like to warn people that the poem's a little longer just so that they know to like hang on every single word. I'm actually kind of kidding, so they know if they get a little lost. It's kind of like a train going by. You know, if you get lost, you can kind of catch back up and jump back on. So if you get lost, don't worry, come back. And this section is called The Unborn, and it starts to look sort of like the first section is looking sort of out at the world. It's kind of organized like this. They probably, I don't know. But the second section, I start to kind of look more inward and more to the past for some reason. I don't know. Organizing a book like this is complicated, but all right, here we go. The dying part. It was Chris who first saw the glowing snake that lazed across the alley between the Save-A-Lot parking lot and the park where our pets went to die. A king snake, Chris believed, at least 6 feet in its dozing length, its chain link of black scales magically aglow. They approached the thing at first with stealth. 7 skinny kids in their swimsuits and scabs, picking at it at first with sticks, then with the tips of their Payless Jordans and Dions, until, emboldened by stillness, they double-dog dared each other into leaping at stalled machinery, boys proving they were men to girls proving they weren't afraid of nothing. Day turned to night in that alley. The sun shut down and the moon rose up. The children's faces so brightly lit by snake glow they looked like cities in the dark. And though he should have seen it coming, the boy flinched when Sam's foot slammed down on the snake's sparkling head, and Tim grabbed hold its writhing tail, and Chris slid it open from anus to head to see what that king was made of. What did they find within? A family of 7 gray mice agleam with an even more powerful light. 1 mouse per child, they fished each glowing body from snake meat and held them like jewels in their hands. Which glowed first, the boy wondered, snake or the mice it ate? And who would believe them, or in all that glow? Like stars, Emma said. Like Jesus, Sam said. Like something from another world, Chris added, as he began to bring his bright blade down again to see what glowed deeper in. That's when, all at once, their mouse eyes opened, and with a blaze of light and a newborn's wail, the mice leapt from their hands to scatter into the green world of the dying park. For some time, those kids just stood there, Chris with knife poised above his radiating palm, Sam's mouth agape, a streak of what looked like the guts of a firefly smeared across Cassie's shirt, the snake hanging from Tim's grip in black ribbons and blood. What had they witnessed? They wondered as they watched what glow remained from their hands in the creek that flowed between storm drains beneath I-40, that bright substance briefly illuminating the dark water with a seam of light that snaked into the mouth of the sewer system. Were those mice resurrected? The boy wondered, the rest of the way home and the rest of his life? Or had they merely caught them dreaming when they unzipped that king's belly and gathered them in their hands? The boy has dreamt many times of those glowing mice. He often wakes to floating down a river in the dark, submerged in the glow, fish darting like shooting stars all around him, the body of that snake bobbing on the water before him, which he gathers in his hands and paddles back to the bank and lays it on its back, and pulls the sides of the split belly together, like stitching a wound, like swaddling a newborn, like jacketing a toddler eager to play in the snow. Then he coos at the snake, limp in his arms. Then he gets back in the water. The glow is gone, but it cannot be far. If he swims hard enough with his one free arm, perhaps he can find it again. Keep moving, he tells himself as the undertow builds. Keep moving, he tells himself as he feels the child unraveling in his arms. Keep moving, he tells himself over and over. What else is there to do? I just kept moving.
That was beautiful.
Hey! Yeah, it's kind of neat. So I like to echo things in my, wow, that's the most irritating thing a writer has ever said. I like to echo things in the books I write. That's what I was going to say. So in my first book, there's this poem about nearly drowning in a cave. And when we got, did you recognize that? Yeah, so when we got into the water to get out of the cave, me and my dad and his best friend and my best friend like linked together, and we just kept yelling, keep moving, keep moving. It was very dramatic. I was the only one who got out. All right. Okay, this one's hard to read, but I'm gonna do it. All right, this is a good man. Don't move a muscle, my father says to my sister, then rises from his place at the table, strides down the hall to his office, and opens and closes the door with a click. I, my mother, and sister stare at the dinner table. We examine the wood grain, seek visions from the swirling designs. If we're quiet enough, we pray he'll fall back to his work. If we don't make a sound, he will, we hope, forget. Then we hear again the click open and shut the door, his footsteps down the hall, and he reappears in the kitchen with a pair of silver shears, the bronze screw of its hinge, the scared eye of an animal, as he sits before my sister, opens the scissors before her face, and removes her bangs in a single snip. My father is a good man. Dad, I've said to him some nights, you were a good dad. Yet, when I recall my sister's bangs falling to the table so my father can see the truth or lie in her eyes, I return to the scene he painted the night I was 10 when he caught me stealing yet again and for the last goddamn time. My arrest, the prison they'd put me in, the metal table they'd strap me to, the scissors they'd used to unman me, just like these, he said, holding those shears to the light. To this day, my sister and I wonder if Dad got it right. Fear, he explained years later, is sometimes the only tool. And I did, after all, my sister says, confess. And my bangs, they grew back. And I did, I admit, apologize to everyone I took anything from. And look how proud Dad is of me now. But then there are my sister's eyes after Dad's removed her hair. Green and still as the eyes of a predator. Then there's Mom, my sister reminds me, our mother, sitting quietly in her seat, her hands folded silently in her lap. Okay, so give me a round of applause for the second. So the morning that poem got published, I got a message from Brenda Bootke, who informed me it had been published because I had no idea. And I was, it was difficult, In fact, I had published that poem before and I pulled it. I said, I don't want to put that out there because it made me feel, I don't know. Y'all can imagine why I would want to pull it. So I did. And after a lot of reflection, I decided that was the right decision at the moment, and it was no longer the right decision. And so I'm happy that I've got that out there. And me and Brenda corresponded briefly, and I said something like, he made a mistake, and I think you said something like, yeah, that's what we do. Me on the other hand, parenting, never make mistakes. Thank God the kids are back there. All right. So 3 more poems and 3 kids, 1 poem each. That's what I'm going to do here. So this one's for Eli. This is Lure. She flicks her foot, an array of light, the way my father taught me to draw a trout, the flick my lure from shadows and shadows and shallows. She draws me to her surface. She pulls me from the water and cannot breathe. She kisses me tenderly as I thump open my father's knife. It's steel flashing in the light, the way steel flashes in the light. This is how you clean a fish, I tell her son, as he adds his tears to the river. This first catch of his life, coming in my hands, his first kill. This is my heart, I say to his mother. Take it, do with it what you will. You are the last woman I will love. So what happens in this section is I go on the journey, I look more inward, I sort of, I heal somewhat. There's more healing to do. Healed a lot, and me and Karen got together, and then I joined the family. And so in that poem, I'm saying, her son, like they're not mine yet. I'm not claiming ownership yet, and that sort of changes. So the next one, okay, this one might be hard to hear. I don't know how it's gonna go, but there are a few things I want to say about it. This is Heaven Fire. This is for Otis. So, and y'all can jump in at any moment if necessary. So they are all Inupiaq, which is an Inuit tribe in Alaska. Like the very top of the United States, there's this town called Barrow. How do you say it in Inupiaq? Qaqayluk. That's pretty good. Okay. Their language is there's Q's and K's all slammed together. It's really interesting. And so, and they're also of Indi descent. Indi is the Indi word for Apache. Does that make sense? So they're not called Apaches in the Indies, they're Indies. So that doesn't make any sense, does it? They're Apache. The right word in the Apache tribe is Indi. Okay, and so Karen is representing some indigenous stuff here today. You can ask her about it. So are the kids, Otis has on his what do you call it? Comic. They're little shoes. The boots are muklums, right?
Yeah.
They're little. I'm getting better. They're little shoes made of seal and stuff because it's cold at the very top of the world. Just I don't know. It's meant so much to me to be welcomed into an indigenous family, and to be part of it. So that all will make a little bit more sense when I read this poem, I guess. I don't know. So, okay, the last thing to say is, I'm going to do these long strings of names for him. It has dashes between each word because, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Hey, all right, just in time. Okay, Heaven Fire. Okay, well, I'll put myself in a real situation here. Our middle child sings jingle bells, well into February. When he wakes in his crib before his mother and I, his stepfather, have come to change his diaper and help him into clothes, and all he has to do is sing. The boy is not my blood, though son is the only name I have, for he who will dance to just about anything. Son whose heart his mother believed was broken until the doctors inspected its chambers and vows to declare him fit. Sweet Indi boy, sweet Inupiaq boy, sweet caroler in the morning's half-light boy, my heart beats just like yours. I want to write to him in the half-life of the kitchen. Your song seemingly serenading the sun through the thin walls of this home we share on 2nd Street. The same sort of blood circulating through our systems as daylight filters through the invasive hackberries in which the emperor butterflies rest their wings. The same sort of blood, son, feeding the same sort of muscles as a whisper of a door opening down the hall halts your singing, stills your stepfather who is only doing his best. In the middle of his next line, the same saline solution of tears, no matter the record of massacres and broken trees between our people's histories, brought to our sometimes green and sometimes blue eyes, when the mother we both love in our different ways appears in the doorway, just risen and without coffee, her her hair flowing down from the roots, like heaven, like fire, like heaven fire, like life, like life. See, the reading is improving. Now I'm getting a clap back there at home. All right, that's what I'm looking for. What's our time situation like? 10 after? Wow, we're good at this. Okay. All right, I'm going to read one more poem. And then, do y'all want to do a Q&A or no? I think he answered the question. Okay, I think it's a no. You can ask me a question up here if you want. I really like that. No, that was great. That was great. I really appreciate the actual, like, nah, man, let's not do that. But often, like, author's other worst nightmare is you get to the Q&A and it's like, okay, so now you ask the author questions. And he, like, comes out here and he's like, okay, on to the book signing. Okay, so we will not do a Q&A. If you have a question for me, just let me know. We will, you can purchase books up there if you haven't purchased one yet. And then we're going to have, like, a Congo line or something, and I'm going to sign them here. And please, get...
I have questions.
Well, you can... No. We're not doing that, Carla. You can get... So many questions. You can get cupcakes that Maria made that have the book on them, and I made the cheese tray that's not there, the fruit tray that's obviously bought from a store. I made that. There's beer. I also canned that myself, and there's sangria which I made. Okay, so this last one's for Celia Una, and it's the final poem of the book. And again, thank you so much for coming here tonight. This is Catch and Release. When finally it was time for our child to arrive, I was not allowed to enter the hospital room reserved for those with your last name. So, instead, I went fishing. Stayed by the phone all that afternoon as I hunted for those who breathe water, biding my time until your text that would tell me the little girl I called daughter had been born. My friends on the Buffalo tried to hide their perplexion. They could not understand why a man without children could fall so in love with a woman expecting a child not his. Is any child really ours? And how rare is it really for a man to dream of cradling the woman he loves as she nurses the child who has only just become? I caught a 23-inch smallmouth that day, biggest catch of my life. 5 minutes of struggle just to catch a glimpse of that Goliath in the shadows. Another 10 before I held it aloft by the gills for a picture, then prepared it for release. The metaphors lost on neither of us. That little girl born that morning, the exact same age as that smallmouth I gave back to the water at day's end. Truth is, I ate that fish. I brought home 4 fat fillets I cooked 4 different ways for that Indian mama. Pan fried, deep fried, broiled, and grilled. This is all completely true. It really is. The meat my lover's body took in fed back to her child. Our child, she said as she lay on the bed that might as well have been a sandbank of the river that child came from. Body exhausted and healing, while we held our baby in our arms. Big fish, blinking up at me. Her life in my hands. My lover holding my hand. This child, a gift of the water we hold to every day and must learn one day to let go. Thank you.
Thank all of you. We're going to freak those kids out because what we're going to do is we're going to start, Jenny's going to come over here, and we're going to line up into the children's department. So they're going to see a whole bunch of adults back there. So please, again, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Please buy copies of the book for yourselves and give your closest friends because you should do that.
Yeah.
And so if you'd like your book personalized, we're going to start over here with Jenny and moving back into the children's area.
And then when all that's over, we're going to go to the bar. So, all right. Come on, we get